silencing the inner critic. Every human being have or had an inner critic, a voice that counteract every time they set to do a specific task, etc. In fact, the enemy makes sure, if not, you would be free. And what we want to learn, and because we are kingdom citizens, how does kingdom citizen silence the inner critic? Because both the people in the world and even lots of people in the church, and maybe most, I don't know what that number is, have an inner critic. We call it doubt. We have many, many names. And we're going to talk about that inner critic, and we're going to talk about what it is and how does it work. What's its strategy and tactics, and how we can move past it to be effective. Because if you don't get past the inner critic, you will not be effective. But if you don't understand what it is and how it works, how can you defeat it? Christ said, when the blind lead the blind, they both fall in a hole and will be destroyed. In the physical world, the inner critic is called either the inner critic or the ego. In the spiritual world, it is called the lower self. In the spiritual world, they have it is called your real self or your higher self, or the I am present within you, God's presence within you. In the world, and as I said, the side that you're dying to, or Christ said you must die to find your life, they call your lower self. You know, say your receive or created self. In the world, it is called the egoic self, or the inner critic. No matter which name you give it, at the end of the day, it's the same entity we're talking about. And we need to understand how it forms and how it works. What is the platform of its strength and its tactics? What kind of tactics does it have to navigate to keep you in that position? Amen? And how does God break it down, and how you can escape it in the name of Jesus? Each one of us come in this world like a blank slate. We are excellent fertile soil, just pure when we enter the world, to be formed or molded, like someone give you pure clay, and you can be molded in this way or that way. But this very state is one of the reasons we have parents that are supposed to protect us and guide us and teach us, etc. But most of our parents are already operated under the critic. They're already operated under the ego or the lower self. So in truth, they're not much help. But it's not just our parents, it's our siblings and our community and our schools, and it's the world. In fact, that whole system, the Bible refers to it as the world and its moral economy. So it's a whole system where the lower self is created, implemented, and operated. So it has excellent support both in the home, in the siblings, in the school, and in the economy, and everywhere you go. But we need to understand, it is always fear-based. How does it come about? How does it get formed? As I said, we come here with just pure potential. Just pure potential that can be what we're supposed to be, or we can be molded or changed. We're very impressionable when we come, and this is what allows the ego to be formed, or the lower self. So we come in the world, and you know, it's a new experience, and the soul has arrived, and it is very, as I said, it has great potential, but very, very vulnerable. And as we start to grow, because of our own parents and siblings and friends and the kind of world that we live in, their kind of fears and different things they have, they start to put impressions, things you might do something, you know, you just don't know better. One of the things when a soul is young, it is very curious. It likes to explore, because at first a soul is fearless. It does not understand good or danger. It just kind of operates. It is fearless. One thing it comes with, without fear. Not unless the womb it was in was at tremendous fear, then it can observe that fear, but it doesn't have a comprehension of the fear. It might just be inside of it. You understand? It has the feelings, osmosis received, but it doesn't really understand. Yes, you know, it's just an atmosphere it's accustomed to, based on the womb it was in. But as the soul start to grow and start to be developed and apply curiosity, there are many things start to transmit their impression onto it. The soul might do something, or the little child that is inappropriate, and the parents might say, "Are you stupid?" or something, or their brother might always go, "You will never come to nothing," or your sister might say things like, "You're a fool." Now, it doesn't matter what is thrown towards the soul. That is irrelevant. It's what the soul believes. Once the soul starts to believe, if someone goes, "You're stupid," or "You're foolish," or "You'll never come to nothing," every time the soul goes, "I believe that." then immediately that becomes the forming a position now the soul has been taken. The lower self is beginning to form. The ego is beginning to form. It's not what they throw at you, it's what you believe. What you identify, what you form an association with. This is the forming. As I said, you need to understand how the ego is formed. You understand? Or how the lower self is formed. It is formed by identification, association. So if they say you're a fool and you don't believe it, it doesn't work. It's just words going and coming. If they say you're a fool and you go, yeah, I must be a fool, that's why I keep getting into trouble. Now once you start associating, the ego starts to be formed, or the lower self. Eventually, as this process continues, as I said, with your school, with your parents, with your community, with your sibling, gradually, based on your environment and the data that has been administered to you, TV, etc., and what you are associating with believing, the ego or the lower self start to be formed. Now, unfortunately, Satan is no fool. He makes sure that that data, those expressions that are being focused towards you, they're not edifying. You understand? They do not support what you came in. You came without fear, which means you came in a state of what? Love. Only love casts out fear. You see, if you came without no fear, that means you came in a state of love. He makes sure that the things, the people, and so forth are administering to you are not love. You understand? First, it's all fun there, you're so cute, etc. But eventually, just your growing up start to annoy them, so they start going, you know, you're too troublesome, you're stupid, you understand? Or you're doing things just out of curiosity, you start annoying them. And because they did not deal with themselves, they transmit their egoic dysfunction or lower self dysfunction to you. The child then, once the child starts believing, once they hear it enough or is in the environment enough, the child starts to observe this identity, this association, and the ego or the lower self start to be formed. Greater the belief, stronger the what? The ego. Stronger the disidentification with what you were, you understand? And the re-identification with what they're telling you. You understand? Girls have to act this way, you must speak this way, this is how black people act, this is how Caucasian act, this is how... But this whole identity start to be formed. Start to be formed. As I said, rarely it is ever formed in an empowering way. Most of the time, it is formed always from fear because it's formed as a defensive. They're trying to stop you from falling into the same trap or ending up like them. And in doing that, they sell you the program from a fear perspective. If you don't go to school, you will fail. If you don't stay away from these people, you... So there's all these fear that you associate in this identification of the lower self or the ego. Very soon, combined with that, you're not innocent in this process. You're innocent in the start of the ego forming. At a certain point, you will start to also experience certain things on your own. But because you have not been trained properly, you'll do it inappropriately, which will conform the ego forming on the basis of fear. You will have things you like or things you want to do and people you want to know. But you're new to the world. You do not quite understand how to do it. You do not take the time to study the person or to study the thing or to understand the situation or the person you're dealing with. You understand? But you want it. So you just engage. Because of your lack of preparation, you understand? To deal with the matter, of course you what? You fail. You don't fail because you can't. You fail because you're untrained. So once again, this reinforces. You see, you must be stupid. You see, you must be a failure. I told you you will not be anything. So the ego becomes the identification with all these things that have been administered to you becomes what? Stronger, solidified, greater. Compound, reinforce. It is reinforced by your belief system. It is reinforced by the administering people and things around you. And it's reinforced by your lack of intelligence to know when you go about something, make sure you have all the information to know what you're dealing with and you are fully ready to deal with it. Any sports athlete of any major kind like boxing or even football, before they play any other team, they study everything there is to know about the other team or the fighter. No champion, you can just call up and go, fight this person. You go, no. They watch films and tapes. They make sure they know as much information as possible about the other team. Everything about their strength and weakness. And then they look at their own strength and weakness to see, can they overcome this person or this situation? And then they set up a strategy, you understand, that is against the person's strength, but facilitate towards their strength. But when we're growing, we don't understand this. We don't understand, I got to understand the person or the thing or the situation. I just want it. Cute, it's shiny. So in our naivety and ignorance, we engage in things we should never get involved with, from drugs to alcohol to women to men, all kind of stuff. And we come out typically on the short end of the stick, fail miserably. You understand? It's not because you're not good enough. You're unprepared. You have not been prepared properly. You understand? And typically you live in a world, if your parents trying to hold you back, say, no, you're ready for this. All your friends and everybody else is doing it, and you need to fit in. Okay, you don't want to look stupid and feel like a misfit. So you get engaged in things that you should never be participating in. And this reinforces the ego position, the lower self, with all of its negative process and program and positioning. This becomes the inner critic. Now I'm going to explain how this inner critic, this is the forming of him. This is how it is formed. You understand? It is formed, as I said, based on fear, which comes from failure. You understand? And engaging in things and your parents trying to protect you, but it does the scare tactics. Not realizing that every time you believe it, it has become part of your identity, part of your association of who you think you are. Now, at a certain point, it doesn't start right away. Once this program becomes strong, fear will give birth to a child. This one will cripple you and nullify most of your ability. It's called doubt, or we have another word for it in the world. Second guess. Everything you're about to do, all of the things you have heard and you believe in, comes to the moment. Oh, I always feel it never works out for me. They say I'll never become nothing. I messed it up. My mom was right. So immediately there's a stream and a slew of everything you identify with, called the ego or the lower self, come to the moment. So you never engage in the moment in what the moment just is, or as you. You're engaging it as the collective sum of negativity that you identify with. This is how you embrace every moment. But typically the mind is a little smarter than that. He will realize that every time you got to face this thing, he's in this whirl of doubt. And this won't make him function very well with his friends and associates. He's in this whirl of doubt. And this won't make him function very well with his friends and associates. So we create a defensive program. I love the way Eckhart Tolle said, he said the mind, the ego is specialized in counterfeit what? Roles. So we will create counterfeit ways. Every moment we engage with a new situation, all of this always flooded. But we will create some kind of facade to pretend it's not what? Happening. This becomes a coping device. You understand? But it's always coming. But whether we'll smile more or try to, we'll have some way, some kind of counterfeit role to pretend. But we can't stop what we identify with. Because what we identify, we have spent 10, 15, 20 years building it as ourself. It is the so-called sum of self that we're engaging in every moment or situation or circumstance. We will have a counterfeit way of interfacing. Most people do. If not, they can't function, period. They have a pretensive way. But anytime you put any pressure, you normally see it what? It come falling. So they typically have a counterfeit way of interfacing and a defensive way of what? Protecting this process. Now I have to explain the protection. As they grow up, they'll see, okay, I need a husband, I need a wife, I need a car, I need all this thing. But they have a program consistently coming to floods in. I'm unworthy, I'm not good for nothing, it will never work out, I always mess it up, I'm a disaster. This is always happening. Plus they have the counterfeit program. Well, I have to try to go after it. I have to try to get the house, I have to try to get the car, I have to try to get the husband, I have to try to get the wife. Because that's what the world does. Everybody move on to the next phase or stage in their life. But remember, what I call me is built on I'm a disaster, or I'm no good, or I'm not deserving, or you'll never be nothing. or you'll never be more than this. So, if I get these things that I'm going after, the house and the husband, and let's call it the Canadian dream, then that nullify what? Who I am. So as much as they go after the thing, they always have a sabotage program to what? Reinforce, to destroy what they get so they can reinforce what? What they are. It doesn't matter what an egoic being or lower self being accomplished, they will destroy it shortly after. Because if this win, this is what? Eliminated. Everything they've invested themselves in, you understand? Would be destroyed. That means they're God because they don't know their true self. So the ego always have a counterfeit, you understand? Offensive program, but a sabotage defensive program to what? Get back to feeling what? Conform what it is. It always do. It has a way, you understand? It plays counterfeit role. It will pursue, but it will destroy to get back to what? Lower self, ego.
It's twisted.
Yes. So every situation, it's the inner critic that goes, all of the voices you have heard. Every human being hears voices. Just like how I can hear Pastor Joe's voice and Sister Jessica and Sister Jill and your mom's voice and your sister. You see? And invisible voices. Yes, and so when the ego go to deal with a situation, all the voices comes what? Into the moment. Into the moment. All the things it ever heard in school. You know, so teachers said, I don't know why you come to class. You're just a failure. Unless the child was trained, when you hear things like that, I return it to sender, never identify it. It become part of the makeup of the ego. And then the ego has been faced, this dysfunctional identity, created identity of received identity, is expected and is challenged with life to go and make life. And how people make life, you need to be successful financially, and you need to be successful in your health, and all this thing. But every time you try to go after the thing, all the doubts floods in. So it might have what we call, as I said, a camouflage, a counterfeit role to acquire it. But I guarantee it also have a counterfeit role to what? Destroy it. Because if it don't destroy it, then it can't be true to it what? Self. The ego will lose power. It will cancel itself. It's not built on success. You see? It is expected to succeed, but it's built on what? You understand? Doubts and fears. Doubts and fear. So typically, what it will try to do, in fact, the greater and louder the doubts in it, the more it tries to accentuate its accomplishment. To prove to itself, I'm not a failure, I'm not a nobody. I told I'm going to be somebody. It tries to be, you see, more proud. Become more. Do more. Because the inner voice, we call it the inner what? Demons. Where did those demons came from? They came from your mommies and your brothers and your sisters and your communities and your school and your friends. You understand? And so forth. They came. And here's the worst part about it too. Those are all bad. Typically, also, the ego draws strength from its outer, the things that create it. So it has a way, you have the inner voice that always comes, the collective sum, but it has a way of always going back to its environment to get what? Reinforced. Just like how it sabotage anything it's created to get back to itself, it also go back to its environment to what? Or find similar environment to what? Reinforce itself. To reinforce. So you need to understand, as I said, it is built from fear, dysfunction, give birth to doubt, create counterfeit roles to achieve, create another counterfeit role to sabotage, return to its environment, its mother that created. I'm not talking just your physical mother, the environment. It loves to go back there because it's what? Anytime it feels scared, what does it do? It runs back to its environment. It reinforces itself. You see? It loves to pretend. It wants to accomplish, do things in truth which will destroy it. But it specializes in survival. It knows how to sabotage it or to get back into environments to reinforce it. People, like basketball players, sports, they rocket to success. And then they do something to just get back.
Perfect.
They have to.
Mike Tyson.
They're endless. In the NFL, they're out of control how often it's happening. Yes. They're millionaires and they go and just do something, the dumbest thing. Shoplift. Just think they have no need to. But no, they have a need to. You understand? They're returning in their invested what? Sum of self. In fact, I guarantee, in certain part, they feel quite good when they get back there. They're like, no, this is more like it. I feel myself. Logically, it doesn't make sense. They go, that was really stupid. But in their being, there's a sense of what? Pleasure. Because the self is what? Return. The reinforcement. They typically will do something stupid when they start to feel lost. What is loss? They're losing, you understand, consciousness or perception, you understand, of the sum of self. Because they're engaging too much in their success, something. And they start to feel what? Like they're losing themselves. So they have to, you understand? So they have to what? Destroy themselves to get back to self. Man finds himself in this dichotomy. Part of it, as I said, was, as Dr. Wayne Dyer said, was given to him by his wonderful families and friends. Not because they intend to make you fail. They live in it. And that's what they give to you. They thought they're protecting you.
Great intention.
They have great intention. And part of it is your lack of preparation how to interface with people, things, and situation. This is why you see the wicked, they kind of look like they're succeeding. But God knows at 1 minute they'll come right back down. Their success is not real because it's built from fear and doubt. God doesn't build you that. Every stage has to be built on love. Every platform has to be built on truth. Nothing can be built on fear and doubt. It's all been on love and trust. You understand? You never retreat, actually. You always go what? Forward. You're not even allowed to look back. Why is the egoic so-called self is built completely on what? Looking back, reinforcement. That everything, it floods in. Everything your mommy, your friends, everybody ever tell you. It all comes in. It all comes in.
It all affects what you're doing.
It affects everything you're doing, every relationship, every circumstance. Some of you might date people or do different things. When you see it, go, what happened to you? You're never dealing with just the person. You're dealing with all the experience that form this ego. You seem like somebody you're dealing with 20 people or 20 things at the same time. This is the forming of the ego. But we need to know, when you still have to deal with people, things, and situations. How do you become effective by eliminating all this sum of the lower self, what we call the inner critic, or the ego, or the lower self, that rushes into that moment? How do you enter the moment? First of all, what you really are, not what you have been created really to be physically, in a state of power. And one of the greatest deliverance is to get deliverance from this. This is what Paul was talking. Paul was going in Romans 7 into a moment. But you see that all these counterfeit programs comes immediately to defeat anything he's about to do. He go, I want to be with God. But everything comes to destroy this position. He go, who will help me? Who will help me? This program goes anywhere you go. So we just, they run from job to job, situation to situation, circumstance. But the critics are where? They're in you. The demons are within. For some people, it is so bad they become schizophrenic. For some people, they have to use alcohol. They have to use drugs. They're just so hard to manage. Greater the belief in these things, harder it is for the will to what? Turn them back. Harder for the will to, you understand, to go, no, I rebuke you. This is why typically these are the people that makes it in this world. They kind of renounce or disidentify everything they was. Some of them change their name. Some people, in order to get away from this, they'll go, okay, I'll change my name. I want no association with my family. You understand? They'll change their culture whatsoever. But they have to find a way to what? Reinvent themselves. Reinterpret themselves. And they need to believe in what they work in. Many psychologists teach this principle. how to reassociate and redevelop